was I thinking?
A lot of people think I got this camera because of the hype, but Jason Vong doesn't buy into the hype. He is the hype. I am the one who knocks.
Fujifilm X100VI, 2 months later.
I truly believe that I'm the 1% that bought this camera because of its amazing video capabilities in a pocketable form factor.
Video.
No other camera brand is giving us this right now. 6.2K 30 frames per second, 4K 60p, 10-bit 422 f-log, in-body image stabilization with a built-in ND filter. And I need to emphasize this, you will not find a camera in this size in this market that is this stacked. And the built-in ND filter is truly the cherry on top. I hate screwing on ND filters with a passion, but as video users, you kinda need it if you want smooth motion blur in broad daylight. If you shoot too high of a shutter speed, things can start looking a bit weird. You might have seen the famous helicopter propeller effect. Having motion blur will help make your videos feel more realistic and cinematic. On top of that, if you shoot in f-log, your starting base ISO is at 500 and f-log 2 is at 1000. So it's pretty high up there and we need to compensate for that in some way. And let me tell ya, it ain't gonna be aperture. I've been doing a lot of street cinematography with the X100VI, which I've been posting a lot on my social media, and I love them. They are gorgeous, they are beautiful. Cherry blossoms in Japan ain't never looking this sweet. Now, of course, we don't have to shoot in f-log to get amazing video colors. We can still get those illustrious Fuji color signs through their film simulation. Sadly, unlike photos, videos do not get the 8 custom profiles we can program in, so we would have to manually dial in the different custom recipes if we want to change the look. Now, the top question I'll probably get is, does this camera overheat? If you're letting it run continuously in 6K, 4K, then yeah, maybe. But the street stuff that I do, it's less than a minute per clip. I've shot photos and videos all day, no problem, swap battery once, very seldom, twice in a day. That said, I am not using this camera in a professional filmmaking environment. You can obviously, and it is capable, but just don't get mad when you run into its limitations. For me, these video features here were the ultimate deciding factors, and I'm very happy with it, so let's move on to photos.
Too many megapixels.
I love and hate high megapixel cameras. I really appreciate the details and the quality in a lot of my landscape and cityscape photos. I love punching into them and see what I've missed in the moment. However, I do wish there's an option for smaller RAW files because not everything I take has to be 40 megapixels on a random Saturday afternoon. Like, I don't need to zoom into Vivian's face and check out all of her pores. Hey! You can do smaller JPEGs, and yeah, most would argue, why bother, right? JPEGs already look so damn good, why bother editing the RAWs? And I am 100% in agreement with you. But know that there's another spectrum of photographers out there that still prefers to edit the RAWs. They would appreciate this tidbit of information, and I can't ignore them, okay, Mike? Honey, sit down. For me, right now, in this moment in time, I am still in a very experimental stage, learning the ins and outs of this camera. I want to experiment with many different recipes, so I need to take my images in RAW so I can fine-tune how I want my images to look like without needing to edit. Which brings me to the next chapter of the video that will blow your mind.
Fujifilm X-RAW Studio!
So you know how you can do RAW conversion in camera, right? Like you shot RAW, you can actually change the white balance, the film simulation, adjust tone curve, yada yada yada. Yeah, it's a pretty garbage experience because you don't get a real-time preview of the changes until you press Q. And I would love for Fuji to improve on this aspect. But for now, you would actually get a better experience if you did it on desktop. So let's say, for example, you found a custom recipe online you want to try, right? Instead of tediously punching in all the settings and saving a custom profile in camera, you can actually do all that on desktop, see what your images look like with your new recipe, and then save the recipe profile directly to your camera so you can shoot with it next time. Like, oh my god, you have no idea how many crappy recipes I've tried before this, punching in all those settings and then going out to shoot just to find out my images are trash. Now I can just pull up an image that I've shot beforehand and test it all out right here, right now, and holy cow, does this make my life so much easier. But here comes the cumbersome thing about this whole process. You need to have the camera connected to your computer the whole time in order to access the RAW conversion feature, and it has to be the same model. Like, you cannot edit X100VI RAW files if you have another Fuji model plugged in, and vice versa. That and this thing is a clunky app, and maybe some of you are just waking up right now still waiting for that coffee to brew, and you might be wondering, why is this guy editing on the Fuji app and not in Lightroom? Again, it's not actually about editing, it's about being able to test custom recipes easily so you don't have to edit in Lightroom. Capiche? Comprende? Wakarimasu ka? Quick, what does IBIS stand for?
If you answered in-body image stabilization, then you are correct. If you answered it's a hotel, then you're also correct.
IBIS.
People have the audacity to say in-body image stabilization is not a huge upgrade. Like, bruh, from the 5 to the 6, really? For handheld videos, the footage are actually usable now, and photos, absolutely, in-body image stabilization just open up a lot of possibilities. You can shoot at a much slower shutter speed at like 1 second and still get stable and sharp results, especially in low light situations. But even daytime, combine that with the ND filter, stop down to f16, and you can get some of that nice motion blur or take out some of those stragglers in your epic landscape shot. It's insanely good. How dare you say in-body image stabilization is not a huge upgrade?
Autofocus.
On the flip side, I'm not dunking on Fuji, okay? But I think it's kind of a known fact that their autofocus is not the best in the industry, especially if you're coming from something like, I don't know, Sony. In comparison, yeah, it's gonna feel a lot worse. And I bring this up not because I'm trying to shuffle people to Sony, okay? Sony King! But it is important to understand this now rather than buying the camera and being disappointed when you're actually using it. So, single autofocus, great. Continuous autofocus, it's noisy. Even the most static subject, it just sounds like it's struggling to maintain focus, which is really odd. It does have face and eye autofocus, but even if your subject is the most apparent thing on the screen, the X100VI can and still sometimes will focus on another human being way in the distance behind your subject. Like, why would it do that? I've been shooting with Sony for so long now that I kind of take its autofocus for granted. It's not 100%, but the focus accuracy is way higher, so there's a higher chance my photos will be in tack sharp focus. Is it the biggest deal breaker? If what you're photographing requires utmost accuracy like tracking a fast moving subject, then yes. But if you're just doing simple snaps, then no, the slower autofocus is a non-issue. Now, some street photographers would tell you to just turn off autofocus, bro. Learn how to zone focus, ya noob. Which is basically going into manual focus and setting the focus distance to take photos, so whatever is within that distance will for sure be in focus. This is an entirely separate shooting experience that I personally don't mind doing, and I understand that style of freedom for street photography, but to convince everyone to shoot this way, claiming it's the most superior and most authentic way to use this camera when it's 2024 and the X100VI is capable of autofocus is way too extreme. Bottom line, I just think the autofocus here can be way better. And right now, I need your autofocus to be right about here.
PPA.
If you're looking to pick up the Fuji X100VI or any cameras in general, and hey, maybe turn your photography into a business, be sure to check out PPA's educational resources. As a PPA member, you get access to over 900 classes to take your photography and business to the next level. Learn how to take amazing photos like these and even book high-paying clients who want to hire you for your mad skills. And with their gear insurance, you get up to $15,000 worth of equipment insurance so you can take photos and travel with a peace of mind. And you would probably want that considering how hot of a commodity the X100VI is right now. And those are just some of the benefits you get as a PPA member. To learn more, click on the link below and also get $25 off your full membership. Thanks for your autofocus. Now back to the video.
Form factor and ergonomics.
So you might have seen how dusty my camera is, and that's because I pocket it a lot. I do make sure to have this cap on right here, and this thing sticks on pretty tight. Lots of friction. I love this lens cap design. But despite it looking small, it is a dense camera. I'm not complaining it's heavy, but you will feel the weight, especially with its limited grip. After a while, my hand does feel kinda sore. You can of course get a thumb grip or a grip extension, but some would argue that it would defeat the purpose of the pocketable form factor. You don't have to listen to them. At the end of the day, it's your camera. You can dress it up however you like. If you want to add an extension, then add an extension. Some people hate it on my Straw Hat Hot Shoe cover. They just don't know who the Pirate King is going to be. While I wouldn't use the ports while I'm using the camera, it's just awkward that it's on the grip side and not on the other side. It's such a strange choice, almost like they intentionally made the mic port here to be 2.5mm and not your standard 3.5mm, so you never use a mic, therefore you would never run into this problem. The shift in the 1/4" 20 screw hole was a huge concern, but if you're using a peak design plate, you'll be okay. Just make sure that it's situated as far from the battery door as you can. It's still a little awkward to take the battery out, but it's doable. I love how bright you can make the LCD screen, which is nice in broad daylight, though the viewfinder is still the best in that situation. Menu, this is a tricky thing to talk about, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but most people will find it a bit slow and clunky. So if you're someone who's buying this camera but never struggled with any camera menus before, you will probably find this to be a frustrating experience. Like, one of the frustrating things for me that we keep running into is video playback. Like, you would think the playback button here means play the video. No, it exits you out of the playback menu. In order for you to play the video, you have to press this nub down, not in, but down. That is incredibly weird. So if someone knows how to reprogram these buttons, please let me know.
Lens converters.
So surprisingly, a lot of comments in one of my Fuji videos strongly dislike these lens converters, and I can see where they're coming from, but Vivian and I love them. Since we're not interested in an interchangeable lens Fuji system, these here gives us an opportunity to change up our look. This WCL here widens our view to 28mm, and this TCL tightens our view to 50mm. These adapters here are expensive at $350 a pop. I wouldn't recommend getting them unless you can get it for a much lower price. For us, we paid about $200 to $250 each for ours. Anytime you add additional elements in front of your glass, you do lose a bit of quality, and because these are 40 megapixel cameras, it's quite apparent when you zoom into your photos. Is it noticeable otherwise? Not really. Anyways,
Do I recommend the Fuji X100VI?
I do. I highly recommend this camera if any of the talking points I've made resonated with you. But this camera is incredibly hard to get right now. If you try to place a reservation right now, I don't know when you'll get it. We were able to pre-order the silver one for Vivian and was lucky enough to get it on launch day. And I love this so much that I regret not pre-ordering one for myself. So I bit the bullet and bought my black one off of Facebook Marketplace for $2,000.
$2,000?
So I overpaid $250 more over MSRP if you include California tax. Well, look at that. We're in front of Mount Fuji with the Fuji X100VI. It's up to you how much you're willing to overpay, but I suggest try to keep it under $2,000.
I have $2,000. Do I hear 2.5?
However, if you want just the features and the results that I praise so much about, but you don't want to wait, then you can just pick up a 27mm f2.8 lens with an X-T5 or X-H2. I believe those share the same sensor as the X100VI. I don't think you'll get the built-in ND filter though, but you will at least have the option for different lens choices. But if you just want the look of the camera and don't care about the video at all, you can just get an older X100V or any of the X100 series. Don't forget to check out PPA, link down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!
Snap that shot through the lens, Fuji style. The X100VI, it rocks with Jason Vong, your host that knocks. Frame it up, Fuji style. Capture life the Vong way. Frame it up, Fuji style. Capture life the Vong way.
who knocks.